Hi, welcome back to Bexhill West. In today's video I make a start on Terminus Road and the approach to Bexhill West. For me, this project began when I built the station, or rather started to build the station. You see, I still haven't finished it, and one of the reasons I haven't finished it was I wasn't sure on quite how it was going to be displayed, what its setting was. In fact, when I started this channel, I had no idea that I was going to go on and build such a sort of extensive setup. However, that's the way it's gone, and now I'm kind of figured out the baseboards and how this is all going to be displayed. It's about time that I got on with creating the setting in which I can place the model. Now, one of the details in particular that I haven't finished, and it really bugs me, is that around the base of the station walls is a little brick plinth that sort of projects outwards. And I haven't fitted that because I wanted to sort of save fitting that until I knew where it was going to go and make sure I'd done it so there's no gaps and what have you. So now I've got this board built, I thought it's an ideal time to get on with the station, which of course leads me to then need to think about the station approach. So the station is approached via Terminus Road. Now what I'd love to have is a nice little Victorian horse and carriage to show you here, but I haven't got one, so we'll use the number 15 bus on its way to Eastbourne. So traffic would come along, approach the station here, there's sort of a car park, telephone box, station sign, that sort of thing, and then the exit was here. So this is Terminus Road, that's the station approach. There's also a sort of access to a yard over here where there was an additional building we'll talk about in a minute. Now, one of the requirements for this model is that I would be able to display it as though it were 1902 and that the station had just opened, and also display it later on, in particularly October of 1958, and I've got another video coming on that very shortly, why exactly 1958. But anyway, for now the dilemma is, how do I make Terminus Road suitable for 1902 and also 1958, and that's going to require a little bit of artistic license, and I've thought about this a lot. In fact, that's been a delay on doing much of this because I've been trying to think through how I'm going to do it, but I've finally got a plan. I don't know if it's a good plan, and it's certainly not prototypical, but it's a plan that I hope will enable me to kind of sell the illusion that this might be sort of back in the day in 1902 and not look out of place if I want to display it with more modern vehicles such as this bus. So I'll just pan the camera around and show you the station sort of approach. We had the entrance here to what was a car park area. There's a fence along here and kind of like a flower bed kind of thing here. I think there's a phone box to go in, a sign, and then this is Terminus Road itself. Now I've made this with a camber, and I'll show you how I've done that. And I've tried to incorporate all of the curbstones. So we had an exit for the station here, and now this area led to sort of the loading dock. There was a garage at one point further back, which we'll get onto. And at some point in time, and I don't know when it was built, there was a little kiosk here. I'm undecided whether to make the kiosk. I think I will, and I think it will be removable. So this piece, which is just loosely laid on here at the moment, this will be fitted in, and then I can make a removable kiosk that I can pop in and pop out, and have to give some thought to how I can hide the joint. Scrolling around, there was later on in the life of the station, there was another little kiosk here that sort of sold bric-a-brac, and a tiny little building, and I'm definitely going to make a model of that we can pop on. So this is essentially an overview of what's what, and I'll now get into how I made the road. For this example of the road, I'm going to use the same materials as I've used for my actual piece I've just shown you. So I've got a piece of 9mm plywood. Onto that I'm going to fix a piece of 3mm MDF, and then I've got a piece of 2mm thick MDF which will form the road surface. Now this is flexible enough to form the curve, but sort of rigid enough so that hopefully once it's all glued up it's going to give me a nice surface to work upon that's going to be nice and firm. So that will be glued together to form the camber of the road, and if I sort of just hold that up, you should get the idea. And then I've got some sections here of the pavement that I will be using. So these have been laser cut, but rather than just simply stick these on each side, I'm mounting them on a piece of 1mm thick material, so they will sit up something like that, and we'll be ever so slightly proud of the surface of the road. And that's because I'm going to do something with this surface which I'll show you in a minute, and you'll see what that gap is for. So basically that's how it's going to go together, something like that. So let's get that done nice and quick. Now when it comes to the surface of the road, my plan is as follows. I've used DAS clay within the gutter section and a little tool to create the impression of cobblestones. And my plan is then to skim over this with plaster, leaving just some of the cobbles exposed at the edges. Now, a cobble gutter is not unusual to see now, and there are many parts of the country where you do see it, although that's not the case at Terminus Road. But my hope is that just having some cobbles exposed will help sort of give the illusion, when I'm sort of displaying this in 1902, that it's a cobbled road. And as I say, as this road sort of construction, you still see it around now. It's not going to hopefully look out of place in a late 50s or early 60s setting. So that's my plan. It's a big compromise, but it was kind of the best I could think of. Now, I think a couple of horses and carts on the road, they themselves will tell the story of 1902 when I display it in that way. And some straw and horse droppings and bits of rubbish suitably of the correct period in the gutters, I think will also help reinforce that idea. So, with that being the plan, I'll show you how I did it. So there you have the final result, and I'm quite pleased with it. Now, before I painted the surface of the road, I sanded it lightly with some 150 grit sandpaper just to knock off the worst of those rough bits that you saw me leave when I was spatulaing on the filler. But I left a few little blemishes because I thought it gave the surface character. Now, all I've done to paint this was I sprayed it all over with a Vallejo sea grey paint, and then I think it was cyanide grey I used just to give a quick blast over the pavement surfaces. And I used a little bit of dry brushing the cobbles themselves. Now, I'm absolutely no good at painting this sort of thing, and this really is part of the fun of this project for me, to develop my skills. So you could see in the close-ups the dry brushing isn't that good, but the overall effect is quite realistic. So with this test piece sort of kind of finished and with my ideas finalised, I shall get on and complete the rest of Terminus Road for Bexhill West. Well, I hope you've enjoyed that little look at road building at Bexhill West. Certainly great for me to sort of cross that milestone and can now push on to get the station area complete, because then I can finish the station itself, which I'm looking forward to. Anyway, if you've enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing, leave a comment if you found anything useful, and I look forward to seeing you all next week. Cheerio!